Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bitcoin & Co. and my current series about Bitcoin in Africa. After covering Zimbabwe, Senegal, South Africa, Ghana, and next week Nigeria, I have the honor to host a guest from Kenya. Roselyne Wanjiru is the Director of Growth and User Acquisition at Pesabase and an advocate for the digital economy in Kenya. If you prefer to listen only, I suggest you subscribe to my podcast that you can find in your favorite podcast player. Search for Anita Posch and hit the subscribe button. People watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell on my YouTube channel now to keep up to date with my latest videos. And I started a weekly newsletter where I share the most interesting stories and developments in the Bitcoin ecosystem from my point of view. Every Friday in your mailbox, subscribe at anita.link/subscribe. And now, after a short word from my sponsors, enjoy. To be financially independent, it is important to hold your own keys. Use a hardware wallet like the Swiss-made Bitbox 02. Get the Black Friday bundle now. A Bitbox 02, a steel wallet and backup cards, and save €30. All other products in the shop are 10% off too. Only from November 25th to 30th. Get it at anita.link/bitbox02. Want to buy and sell your Bitcoin in an easy, fast and secure way? Local Bitcoins is one of the most trusted and the largest peer-to-peer Bitcoin trading platform in the world. Go to localbitcoins.com and trade directly with people like you. This holiday season, turn a no-coiner into a Bitcoiner. I definitely recommend using a hardware wallet to store your Bitcoin. But if you have difficulties with the technical requirements of hardware wallets, you can use the card wallet. Get the special edition at hohodl.com. And watch out for bitcoinblackfriday.com, your chance to promote the circular Bitcoin economy with special deals on the 27th of November. Hello, Roselyne. Welcome and thank you for doing this interview with me today. You're the first one. It's a premiere. It's the first video interview, and I'm very glad to have you. Hello.
Hi, it's my pleasure and my delight to be here with you today.
Great. Before we speak about the situation of Bitcoin in Kenya, please introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers. What's your background? Where are you located, if you want to tell us, and what are you working on?
All right, so as an economist, that's my background. I've been keen to just delve into the Bitcoin and blockchain world because I was drawn to the future of payments, the future of economy, the future of, so many things that are tied into this tech. And I started researching on this as a master's area of interest, and I was so drawn into data science because I felt, whoa, there are so many possibilities with data. Look at what Uber has done. Look at what Airbnb has done. And I thought, okay, if I get a master's, then, I'm going to be ahead of the curve. But I ended up not getting the master's because anyone who's really, gotten into the Bitcoin rabbit hole knows what that can do to you. It'll make you change quite a number of ideas that you have about money, about the future, about economy, about, even how we get to transact as people. So I started doing research and I started doing software development for a bit, but I delved more onto the research side because I was really keen on the applications and the usability of blockchain and Bitcoin in my country at the time. And very few people were really doing it. And I felt, okay, if this is a niche that much, it will give me an edge, of course, as a young person. And I started by doing articles at the time, and I worked with a few crypto companies just that had started up at the time. And in the last 3 years, I have focused my work as a researcher and as a marketing professional in that to help startups, or particularly what I do right now with Pesabase is that I'm the director of growth and user acquisition. So my research has now, focused into that. How do we get users for our app? So that's just touching on a few things. But as an economist, I'm really passionate about how this tech can be used sustainably because, we've gotten into the Bitcoin space as, into a time where you see there are so many ideas, but where do we get users? How do we get adoption? how does this thing become sustainable? How do we get to the mass adoption? How do we get to millions of people literally being able to benefit from this? So that's where I have really concentrated a lot of my efforts. And in a nutshell, that's what I do. I'm the director of growth and user acquisitions at Pesabase, which is a blockchain-based company. In this year, we won the inaugural Cello Camp competition, and that was the hugest win for us this year, because it was the first such competition of its nature. And with so many amazing teams from around the world, 60 countries, over 260 teams, it was such a huge honor to have won that. And we got to build on the Celo blockchain. So for us, it's that we get to partner with a Celo, which is such a critical partner for us, and we get to roll out our platform on being able to onboard so many people who are unbanked. So for us, we're in that space of making this vision a reality, and having blockchain not just as a tech but as a reality that's going to help so many people that need it. And that's why I'm so excited to have this discussion today. So yeah, that's what I'm working on, and a bit of my background.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. And so you actually studied the perfect combination for Bitcoin and blockchain development, because when you're an economist and a software developer, then you're perfect. That's a perfect match, basically, to work in this space.
But
And
I'll actually interject, sorry, to just mention that I didn't delve too much into software development, because I felt research kind of just drew me far more than I could keep up with software development. But I really respect, the work that goes into software development. And yeah, that's why for me, I love the tech space, because it brings in so many of these elements together.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So, and when and how did you find out about Bitcoin in the first place?
Actually, it's a friend who mentioned the documentary. I love watching documentaries. I'm a very curious mind. So when he told me about it, I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense, but it's very curious. Then I came across another meetup on Facebook where they were talking about Bitcoin a lot more in depth. And I thought, why not? Let me attend. I mean, I don't lose anything. And we were about maybe 15 of us, less than 15 actually, that afternoon. But it was organized by a gentleman called Michael Kimani. He was the founder of the Blockchain Association of Kenya then. But in that meetup, that's when I really got to delve into Bitcoin. That was in 2016, if I'm not, yeah, 2016 September, I remember.
Great.
Yeah.
Funny that you mentioned Michael Kimani, because just today, in preparation for our interview, I've read an article by him on his blog about the essay writing industry in Kenya. It was very interesting. Yeah. And so let's get a little bit back to the basics. I mean, my listeners, I think, as I do, I know little or nothing about Kenya. Can you please describe the country a little bit for us?
All right, so Kenya is very warm, tropical, and it's a huge, it's a place where a lot of people love to come for their vacations. And if you've heard of the warm, sandy beaches of Diani, Watamu, and Nyali, then probably those might be the first destinations you hear about. But well, we are in East Africa. That's just shy of the Horn of Africa, and by climate, then we're mostly warm. We're mostly warm for most of the year, and it's quite large, 582,000 square kilometers. Our main, economic like earners are tourism, agriculture, and industry, and that's literally a bit for us in a nutshell. But largely, we are very warm people. We are about 44 cultures. Main languages, there's Swahili and English, and I mean there are other 40 of them. There's from the Samburu by communities, there's Kushite communities, Nilot communities, Bantu communities, so quite a number of language groups even in that. Yeah,
So
yeah,
a lot of a lot of diversity, and I guess also for
Yes.
for education, that's a hurdle or an obstacle, because you would have to translate all the educational material to these different languages.
Actually, okay, I would call it both plus and both an advantage and a huge opportunity, because while the majority can listen to, especially Swahili, then you realize and you don't really have to translate all of those languages, but it's an opportunity all the same, because then all these other cultures can get to benefit from that. Because even from, just by targeting Swahili alone, then you can get quite a lot of people who are able to speak it.
Understand.
Yeah.
And how is the economical situation in the country? I mean, you mentioned that agriculture, which was surprising for me, to be honest, that agriculture is basically your main pillar of GDP. And how is this, is Nigeria, sorry, is Kenya in comparison to other sub-Saharan countries well off, a healthy economy, or not?
All right, I would say it's a strong economy, because aside from agriculture, there is tourism. So I would say this year has been one of the toughest, especially because of tourism restrictions. People couldn't travel, and on the other hand, then people have been more open to especially local travel. So you'll see quite a bit of that on Facebook, for example. But aside from that, it's that our economy is really coming up strong, especially with financial innovation and products. So really, that's the third frontier, I would say, apart from agriculture and tourism. So a lot of, especially young people, are looking toward opportunities to work online or in the digital economy, because then you find that especially in urban centers, there are a lot more spaces that are offering free public Wi-Fi, and that's really opening up more people to just consider these opportunities, rather than for example, a more white collar job, so to say. So in our diversity, then you get to see, even if you visit Nairobi, then there's white collar, blue collar, quite a mix of all these activities all over the place. So with Nairobi, it's more urban, and that's where you see more of a melting pot of administrative, financial. You wouldn't see so much of the agricultural side, but now when you go to the other towns like Eldoret and Nakuru, then you'll see more of the massive open fields and large scale farming going on. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and how is the wealth distribution in a way? I mean, how is, for instance, the situation for women in your country?
All right. So for wealth distribution, we still have quite a number of gaps. Well, we have less than about 75,000 people earning, let's say, above $1,000 per month, and that means then you have quite a wide gap between the first $1,000 and the next $1,000 income range. And for women particularly, it's quite grim, I would say, at this point in time. But in my observation, then you find a lot more women are engaging in what you call small businesses, or locally we dub them as side hustles. So that's where, let's say, a woman is placed already in a formal job, but she engages in selling things like accessories, clothes, bags, shoes, just to earn an extra income for her family or for her own personal needs and things like that. So we are in a space right now that's some of these businesses are not exactly documented as of yet, because then you find that let's say this lady has she has her office job 8 to 5, but in the extra time that she might have of work, let's say in the evening between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock or nine o'clock, then she's still trying to get a solid market. So she may not have registered the business already, because maybe this week she's made sales, next week she hasn't made sales, and in a month it's quite fluctuating. So before some of these businesses gain traction, it takes quite a number of years. So that's why then some of this data is not even captured because the person or group might decide to choose another business, try something else, and in this process of trying, then you have quite some disparity in terms of data, data capturing and data analysis. So it's very hard to tell exactly who is pulling in what, who is doing what, who is achieving what. And but the thing is that people are really entrepreneurial by almost by nature. So no one will say that they'll admit there's a very huge income gap, because another issue is that you wouldn't say that people are technically cultured to talk about what they earn from the get-go. So it's only when let's say national surveys are done, and like the recent national census, which was carried out last year, that would reveal some of this data, because at that point then they will ask, what does this household earn, what's the range, who's bringing in what, and with that kind of statistic being released quite some time after the data has been collected, then you realize people don't really have a hands-on grasp to know, okay, this is what even my neighbor earns, or this is what even my cousin earns, because then people aren't really that open to talk about what they earn in the first place. So there's that data disparity in the first place, so that you get to know who earns what, and what can be done to actually make that better for so many more people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are the biggest problems or obstacles for people in Kenya in terms of financial inclusion? So do they have bank accounts or not? Or what are the problems?
All right. So we have about, let's say, 30% of the population that are already connected to formal financial services, because this is typically what you call the salaried population, because we have at least 4 million people already in formal jobs and the like. So just for a mention, then you realize that majority of people who are earning an income in Kenya are in the informal sector. So aside from agriculture, then there's the term that you call jua kali, and jua kali is usually like a small business that will carry let's say less than 10 people, and they're working manually on different artifacts and metal works, and just different kinds of products and services. So with this business of less than 10 people, then typically then they may or may not have a registration and tax status. So with that, then you realize that a lot of these payments will have to be either on mobile phone, like the platform Mpesa, or cash. So for those that are paid by cash, then you can't really tell if this person will choose to then put that money in a bank account. So if you study, let's say, the growth of a bank like Equity, which made it possible for literally anyone to set up an account for free and have even no minimum balance, then it made it possible for a lot of people who are just handling a lot of cash to put in the money in the account instead of like under the mattress, which is what quite a number of people would have done before. But the fact is that as at now we stand with about 30% financial, formal financial inclusion. But with if you consider the statistics and the growth around M-Pesa, which is mobile money, a lot of people may have heard of that. Then you're looking at a much wider range of inclusion, because then we're talking about over 80%, because there's already 26 million subscribers. So let's just say that's about half the adults or half the population here, because you can't really count kids under 18. But yeah, so in that regard, then M-Pesa has really transformed the narrative around financial inclusion, because just by enabling people to send or receive money from their mobile phones, then um, practically anyone can transact financially in the country. And in almost every neighborhood, whether you're in the rural or urban areas, every neighborhood has an agent where someone can be able to deposit and to withdraw money from an agent. So that has really made it easy for people to get these financial services. And the fact is that they've broadened the range of services. So before, it would be that you could only send and receive money, but now you can save, you can get a credit facility or an overdraft facility, and
With M-Pesa, excuse me.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So they've been widening that, and that has really increased the options for so many people to get these services.
And just to
Yeah,
explain for our listeners, so M-Pesa is mobile money, and an
yeah,
agent is a person where you can go to, bring your cash, and this person fills up your M-Pesa account. Is this correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly correct.
Yeah.
Because an agent actually works, I would say, like a mini bank, for lack of a better word. But you can imagine this mini bank literally just would fulfill the functions of a traditional bank, because you do walk into a bank to be able to withdraw and to deposit cash, right, to your account. So the agent fulfills the same function. It's just that whereas with the with a traditional bank, you can get a wider range of, let's say, credit facilities, and hosts of other products like forex and things like that. Then you can't get some of those with an agent in M-Pesa, because the agent's main purpose is actually to enable you to get some liquidity in terms of cash. Yeah.
And do you need an ID to get an M-Pesa account?
Yes, you do. So we just by setting up your phone number and your ID, that's what you need to get your M-Pesa account set up.
Because
So that's why I had mentioned actually the age limit of 18, because here you have to be 18 to actually get your ID, your national ID.
But many people don't have an ID, as far as I understand. What are they doing?
Now that's a good question, because I would say, especially for young people, a lot of them get their first ID because they have to get either university or higher education, documentation, or that they have to get a driving license. So that's already the first incentive, because even for let's say those who may not want to get into higher education, but they want to get work as drivers, or tourist professionals, and they want to basically do work that has to do with driving, then that's your first incentive to actually get the ID, because no license, no ID, no license. Yeah.
Okay, understand. And
Yeah, so I think for
yeah.
the ID, it just comes back to usability. Like, for to be able to get your national health insurance, and your driver's license, then education, then that's why the ID becomes important for some people. Yeah, yeah.
And M-Pesa is a private company.
Hosted by Safaricom, actually.
Okay, and
But
Safaricom.
Safaricom actually went public.
Okay, yeah, but I meant it's a corporation. It's not
Yeah.
state-driven or decentralized.
All
So
right. Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it's decentralized. Okay, it's a centralized company.
yes.
Yeah, definitely a centralized company.
And that's where I wanted to go, because
Yeah.
as you, I guess, might have heard, in Zimbabwe, they took down or banned a part of EcoCash. So
Mhm.
agents were not able to exit or like cash out the money anymore. So
Mhm.
that's always a danger, that governments then decide to ban companies or people to use this kind of infrastructure.
Yeah, so I would say that even in the early years of M-Pesa, then there was quite a bit of resistance from both banking and governmental institutions, because it didn't operate fully as a bank, yet it was handling a lot of money, and there were court proceedings to that effect. But as at now, then there's a very healthy relationship between Safaricom as a company and the government, because M-Pesa has literally become such a key pillar of the economy that it can't be relegated to, let's say, it can be relegated past to what it was in the past. Like, it could be, you could argue, but as of now in Kenya, M-Pesa is such a part of our culture that you can walk into a business, and when you're done with your product order or your service, you can say, may I M-Pesa you, instead of saying I will pay via Visa, or I'll pay via MasterCard, or I'll pay via cash. So M-Pesa is actually a verb for us, and that tells you just how deeply entrenched into our culture this is. So it's not really at a point where the government can freeze it out or wish it away. It's quite something for us. Yeah, yeah.
And how do you see, how was the adoption in the years from 2016 until now in terms of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies?
All right. So in the early years, let's say 2016, 2017, there was a lot of excitement, I would say, around Bitcoin, particularly of a news piece that went quite viral, that a young man had paid for his dowry in Bitcoin. And people were really curious, like, wait, traditionally, as the family of the young man will take the equivalent of like goats, cows. It's just really a cultural thing. It just depends. There are different cultures would require different items. Some would take a monetary gift. Some would take maybe land. Some will take the cows. Some will take the goats. But it's really a code for one family gifting another and showing their appreciation. So when this young man decided to gift this other family Bitcoin and they received it, guys were like, "Whoa, this is new." So what is Bitcoin, and what is all this that you guys have accepted instead of traditional dowry gifts? And anyway, that's
Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Back on.
So yeah. So in that time, then there were also quite a number of I hate to say this, but they were scams. The likes of I think it was BitConnect, BitClub Network, and they really roped people in because they sold the promise of like passive income and people getting rich, because, well, a few of the guys who bought Bitcoin like 2012 and earlier on had seen the price really skyrocket and they had become millionaires, which was true. But by telling now people who are getting in much later that they could make the same gains, then you can realize the frustration that a lot of the new people were facing. So between 2016 and 2018, then you have a bit of excitement and a lot of disappointment about Bitcoin, because there are those who got in early and got profits, and, well, they even got into other businesses. But then there are those who came in later and they got the tails end of the bear market, because when 2017 going into 2018 hit, people thought, oh my, this thing is dead. So you had someone hype it and they became millionaire, and the next thing you buy it and the price has gone down. So those were really sensitive times, because the central bank also issued a cautionary note. So a lot of confidence was in question about Bitcoin, because people were wondering, okay, if the government is cautionary about this, why should I bother buying it? And why are these guys hyping it and telling me that this is the next big thing? And yeah, so a lot of people were in that space of both curiosity, excitement, and disappointment, because for those who made their gains, of course they were happy, but for those who lost, they really hated it.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah. But it's the same way, same here. We had also a lot of scams here, like OneCoin, and you said BitClub Network, and now it's called Bitcoin Revolution or Bitcoin Evolution, and it's all basically a Ponzi scheme. Yeah. So that's why I think it's so important that there is education, so that people can differentiate also, for instance, between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Because a lot of people were actually asking me, some friends, that should I put my money in Bitcoin? I'm like, yes, but I would listen to how the question was being asked, because if someone was asking me, should I invest in Bitcoin, they probably heard it from the crypto scam guys, because they would tell them, put let's say $700 into this investment, then that's all you need to earn passive income. So I'd be like, wait, guys, you don't start with Bitcoin as an investment, package or something like that. Because if that's your mentality toward it, then you actually miss the fact that it's primarily a payment platform. Because I mean, that's even what Satoshi wrote about it, like peer-to-peer payment. So if you start with what Satoshi said, then you can get the basic idea. But when you hear the word investment, like, where'd you hear that? That's not in the design. But when you get to appreciate that it can be a store of value, then we can talk about this being a possible investment, right? In the sense of it being a speculative asset. But that's a different conversation. But if the first mental picture that someone has of this is it's put in $700 and keep earning every day, then that's a scam.
Yeah, and I think the question very often is also, how can I get into Bitcoin?
Yes, that's the other question that I know. Someone told them that they're getting into something. I'm like, no, Bitcoin is not something you get into.
Mm-hmm.
It's a revolution that it has a life of its own. So it's not just like you're gonna get into it and then out of it. Yeah. So yeah, those are some of the questions I would find. I can smell a scam over there.
Exactly, and also these daily income, like guarantee you 5%, 10%. It's a scam, yeah. Or
Yeah.
you don't have to pay for a package upfront, yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
open, it's for everybody, and you don't need anybody else, yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of education needed. But on the other hand, I think the education or the knowledge spreads in a way by itself, because there are enough people, I think, who use Bitcoin as a medium for remittances or savings and
Mm-hmm.
trading and other kinds of things, who tell the others then, hey, look, that's the way I do it, or I did it, and what Bitcoin really is. And when we look at how actually, that's a question: how high is the inflation in Kenya?
Okay, I wouldn't say that the inflation is super crazy right now.
Mhm.
It's been pretty stable considering even COVID this year. We haven't gone above about 7% there about, but still, the effect in terms of price can be felt, because then a lot of people, with especially a lot of people losing their livelihood, then that's really been crazy for a lot of people. So how does Bitcoin come into that? A lot of businesses are still yet to accept Bitcoin for payments, but little by little you can see not just M-Pesa accepted here or Visa accepted here, but Bitcoin accepted here. If you, especially within Nairobi, then there are a lot of people who know right now that they don't want to get into trading, they don't want to get into even they themselves stacking sats, but they want people to be able to pay in Bitcoin, and that's how they'll accumulate. So just as you were mentioning, then there are those who cannot get into mining right now. There are those who cannot get into trading because they may feel that that's a huge learning curve in terms of technical analysis, fundamental analysis, and following the charts and constantly keeping your eyes on those spikes, the dips, and all. But there are those who just want to accumulate little by little by accepting goods payment, and in that simple way to earn Bitcoin that way. So we are yet to see that kind of threshold even in terms of savings, because with the savings culture, then you have a lot of people who tend to save for short-term goals, let's say, and for even maybe more long-term goals. But when we talk about investments in Kenya, a lot of people tend to save toward getting fee for their kids, school fee for their kids. That's for higher education, long-term education, and others will save for their weddings. Others will save for more social activities, more social events, not really like financial markets investment. So I would say there are quite a number of financial education outfits that are already gaining traction within the country, like Abojani for one. They do personalized education, so I'll by spelling just Abojani, Abojani. So what they do is just financial education as per the basics, how to budget, how to set up an emergency fund. They also do classes on how to do offshore stocks, and that's really going to help a lot more guys to see you don't have to invest in real estate, for instance, to consider it a serious investment. Because a lot of people, when you talk about investment, their first mental picture is actually real estate. So moving away from real estate to now consider stocks and bonds and other financial instruments, then having Bitcoin in that in that line of financial instruments, then it's a bit of a learning curve for us, in the sense that then you have the crypto enthusiasts who already are trading and teaching others, just as you'd mentioned that that's one way of having education. But like let's say for the young urban worker who is curious about, they don't have, let's say, $10,000 or $20,000 to put into a real estate venture to begin with, but they have, let's say, $5,000, $500, between 500 and $1,000 that they could maybe try speculate on. So that's where the likes of having Bitcoin ends. Let's say stocks and offshore stocks as an option that they can consider to see a substantial gain. So yeah, a lot of people are kind of just more open to that, so that aside from real estate, now you have either stocks or the likes of Bitcoin to consider investing in.
Yeah, but I mean, having offshore stocks or real estate is, I think, much more an effort and an obstacle for the general person than saving with Bitcoin, because you only need a smartphone and you have 24 words.
Exactly. So now that's the thing. In terms of awareness, then we're having a lot more, especially young people who are curious. They know very well that they don't have the massive amounts of money to invest in, but hey, here is Bitcoin. Just your email, wallet, boom, you're ready to invest. You don't need to have a lot of documentation. And you see, especially for I'm avoiding using the word millennial, but it typically describes the age group, let's say 19 to 30, or give or take. So for someone who's just, they have that allowance and they've started their first job, or maybe gotten the allowance from the internship, and they don't even have they don't even have the ID yet. And this is where Bitcoin is really amazing. It doesn't require your ID, doesn't require your tax ID, doesn't require your any other major documentation that you might consider having, and it just requires you to have an email address, and that's it. You're already into this financial world, and you can save with that and see how even if you choose to stack sats, then you're gaining from that already, and that's really it's really, really, really huge. So I mean, I've seen in a few discussions, some guys are like, they want to stack up Bitcoin, not even for themselves, but for their kids, so that when their kids grow up, they won't ask, Mommy, what did you do when Bitcoin was when Bitcoin was $13,000? It's now something else. It's $100,000. What are you doing? What were you doing? I mean, were you asleep or something?
That's a great question. Yeah, and I guess they will ask it. Yeah, in 10 or 20 years. Yeah.
They will.
You just mentioned staking sats. How many people use the Lightning Network over there?
I may not have the numbers, but I can quickly just kind of ask someone and get that to you.
Okay, great, thanks.
And
you also mentioned US dollar. How many people use it? Is US dollar a very often used currency in Kenya? And how is the name of your local currency?
All right. So the name of our local currency is the Kenya shilling, symbolized as KES. So that's the main currency that we actually use. So the use of the dollar is mostly, I would say, in forex trading as at now, because most local shops really, most for most purposes, really, we use the Kenya shilling primarily. So it's very hard to find a shop that will actually accept dollars directly. So that's what there are quite a number of forex exchange points whereby if you, let's say, travel into the country or are traveling out, then that's when you can convert from Kenya shillings to dollars or dollars to Kenya shillings.
Hmm. But
Yeah.
it's used quite often, because here in Austria, nobody would use US dollars for anything, actually.
Oh yeah. So I guess it's more or less the same for us. So I think I would say it's more of guys who are doing forex trading that would use the dollar
Mhm.
rather than in cash out in different shops and
Okay.
localities.
I just
Yeah.
learned in Zimbabwe that many people want US dollar because they know that it keeps its
Yeah.
value and
Mm-hmm.
and they use it, yeah,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
want it.
Yeah, I mean, the situation in Zimbabwe has been quite, quite sensitive in terms of the inflation. It's been really crazy. It's you wake up, you barely the day ends, and you can't use the same amount of currency that you had in the morning as in the afternoon, and that's really crazy instability. But I would say for Kenya, we we have some good stability on us, so we don't have to worry about that.
Good for you. Yeah, great.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know people in Zimbabwe? Do you do business with Zimbabwe, or is this not possible?
All right, from not me particularly, but a lot of Kenyans do business with quite a number of African, really all African countries. So Kenyans, you will find a Kenyan in every other African country, all 54 of them. You'll find a Kenyan in all 54 African countries because we are quite, as I said, we're entrepreneurial. So myself personally, I've been to about 3, 4 other African countries, but just mainly for Bitcoin-based conferences, Nigeria, Rwanda, and Ethiopia, although that was in kind of passing, but I am connected with the crypto community there. So for me, it's primarily crypto, but for others, it's quite a number of purposes. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot to go on that.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
let's just look a little bit more into what the kind of use cases people in Kenya have or use with Bitcoin, their Bitcoin for. I
Hmm.
have a study, no, a research results from a survey by local Bitcoins. They
Hmm.
asked Kenyan local Bitcoin users
Hmm.
what they use their Bitcoin for the most. And 35% are using Bitcoin for trading, and
Hmm.
30% are interested in long-term savings.
Yeah.
You mentioned that before. Is this a number that's sounding relevant or true?
Yes, it's exactly true and relevant because a lot of, especially fast adopters, I would say, of Bitcoin in Kenya got to hear about it because of trading. And you see, with the speculative interest, especially between 2016 to date, it really just opened up income opportunities for a lot of people because I would say, I mean, there are quite a number of success stories, really. Just I'm not even sure which one to pick, but for someone who heard about Bitcoin in 2016 and not from the scams, and they realize, hey, you can actually trade this against either other cryptos or even just within itself, buying and holding. There are guys who just went in and hodled all the way. They have not sold anything to date. There are guys who decided, wait, these margins are insane. I'm gonna make my profits that way. And there are those who have stuck to that as their strategy in terms of even going into it full time. So there are those who trade part time. There are those who trade full time. There are those already holding classes to teach others how to trade, and that's how it's gaining a life of its own. So with the profit with the statistics from local Bitcoin, I can literally just pick out a success story or two to actually go with that, because when I talk to people about when they're curious about how to really gain value from Bitcoin, then for those who are risk averse, they don't really want to get into a whole trading vibe and the volatility. I tell them, hey, it's okay. You don't have to trade. You don't have to spend your time staring at numbers that, not making sense to your mind. Hey, it's okay. Just you can buy this amount of Bitcoin and just hold it, but just remember to keep your wallet password, please.
Yes,
Don't lose
yes,
that,
the
so that
seed.
so that you don't look at your wallet one day and, oh my, I have this, huge amount of money, but I forgot my. I'm like, no, please do not forget your wallet. I'll sit with you and make sure that you treat that, those private keys like your title deed or your birth certificate. You don't want to lose that. So I mean, for the risk averse, I encourage them to save, but for those who can handle some risk, I'm like, hey, yeah, you can dabble a bit in trading. So that's that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
has something changed in the last 2, 3, 4 months? Do you see more people asking you or more interest in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies?
Yes, especially within the COVID time, then a lot of people were very curious about how to make extra money from that. And well, trading just made a very simple option for that, because even at the start of the year, Bitcoin was around what, $10,000 to $11,000, give or take. Right now, it's at it's past
16.
$16,000, and there are people who, well, if they put in the time, then that's a decent gain, So there are those who were very curious, and I would even see some asking me up front. I've heard of like the likes of Crowd1 or Bitcoin Vault. Is it a scam? Like, did you put money? Let's start there. Because chances are by the time they're asking, then there's that disturbing gut feeling that there's something that doesn't sit right about this, So I would say that there's a lot more curiosity in terms of this as an alternative, because then they realize, just as you mentioned, in comparison to stocks and real estate, that with stocks and real estate, then you do need either upfront documentation, setting up accounts, setting up, there's a waiting time to all this, and even with real estate, that's not easily convertible in terms of liquidity. But with Bitcoin, then it's near instant in terms of you getting your gains and cashing out. So it's becoming a lot more attractive, I would say, to more people.
Mhm. I've also
Yeah.
heard from Bitcoin Vault. Somebody from Africa sent me a message and asked me if he should invest in that. And then I told him how to actually really use Bitcoin. What was
Mm-hmm.
the first name you said before Bitcoin Vault?
Bit Club Network.
Ah, the BitClub. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and there was BitConnect too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think there was
So
also Bitcoin Loophole. So
there
man,
are
these
there
guys,
are
yeah.
so many of those. Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
atrocious. Yeah. It's really,
yeah.
it's upsetting me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's upsetting because a lot of people have, especially in 2018, I know quite a number of friends who lost money to that, because when they tried to ask for their money back, that's when things really started falling back. And I told them, if you had, at the point that they're telling me it's that they've lost, but I was like, I was talking about Bitcoin before, guys. You could have asked me then maybe, but I can't help you right now, So it was really painful. It was really
mm,
painful. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So we've covered quite a lot. Did
yeah.
we miss anything that you want to tell our listeners? Anything you want to add?
As I would say, as that now, we are in a very exciting space as it relates to the adoption of Bitcoin in Kenya. And, maybe just to put it as a comment, really, that I think guys just need to make the conversation around Bitcoin a lot safer than it has been, because anyone who I think was into Bitcoin in the early days, you'd hear statements like, if you don't adopt Bitcoin, then you're behind, you've lost it, it's like you're Neanderthal or something like that. I'm like, no, it shouldn't be insulting, it shouldn't be attacking, it shouldn't be a matter of like let's say, for especially those in banking, you'd hear discussions about Bitcoin and you're like, okay, Bitcoin will disrupt banks will destroy this and destroy that. I'm like, guys, wait. It doesn't have to be a war. It doesn't have to be such an offensive thing, because the truth is that for so many people, if you make something offensive, why should they even bother to put their time into this? But the minute we actually realize the simplicity of Bitcoin in the first place, it's amazing for everybody, because whether you're in banking, you're in traditional brick and mortar industries, we've seen giants in the banking industry go from bashing Bitcoin to having their own coins, or at least in some form or another accepting Bitcoin. So really, we should be open to learn and making this an everyday conversation that we can have over coffee, because that's really how things become beneficial to us all. Because even when you look at the future of Bitcoin as revolutionary as it's supposed to be, then it's not a revolution that's going to be, how do I say, shoved down our throats or bashed into our faces. No, it's gonna be over coffee, that one day I open up my phone and I'm like, didn't I, okay, I don't have cash at that point. Of course, I wouldn't bother to carry cash, but I'll open up my phone and they'll have a Bitcoin QR code and be like, yep, scan that and I'm out. I'll be happy in that day, because I didn't have to think twice about it. I didn't have to swipe my card, didn't have to get any cash. Of course, for Kenya, then M-Pesa is there M-Pesa is there to stay. Maybe in 30 years it will be something different. But for now, it's that I will be happy when I can walk into a store and I see just Bitcoin accepted here, and hey, I can walk out and I'm happy. I have no stress in that regard, because it not only for me as an individual, but for the business, then they have the possibility to actually make extra income through trading, because then they'll have the volumes from all the BTC that they get from their customers, right? And for especially small businesses, that's an untapped resource, because for any small business that's trying to get off the ground, and you're looking at your sales, of course, from what you're getting from your working clients or your online orders and things like that. But in terms of extra income for small businesses, then I think every small business needs at least one or two good professionals who can trade BTC and get them the extra income that they need, because that's going to give some serious weight to every small business on the planet.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, but just one question. But
Yeah.
what if the price goes down and then the small business has no money anymore?
All right, that's also a huge real risk, real possibility. But I think that the beauty of that is that it's gonna give the appetite for something different. And I put it in the sense that when you learn that something is possible, it gives you a bit of an appetite and an aspiration to get that, and it kind of grows something in you that you can't unlearn, you can't forget. So like for me personally, when I first learned about Bitcoin, I never invested really, but it gave me the curiosity that pushed me later on into the industry. And I didn't start with trading. I started with research. I was good at that. I could write and earn from my writing at the time. But as that grew, then it's become something completely different for me. That's why I would say, even if the price of Bitcoin were to go down today, it's given us the appetite for something different. We know we don't have to be stuck with traditional options, like, as I said, real estate and stocks for investment. And that's not to shade on them. Of course, they're really important, but the fact that we know that there's something different actually gives us the push to create that new alternative for ourselves. So it might not be Bitcoin should it go down. It's that when you hear about DeFi, for example, with alternative financial instruments, it's that there might be always something out there that we can use as people or as small businesses to gain different or alternative income. So the fact is that we are not stuck, and
Yeah.
yeah, we're not stuck. That's the beauty of it. We are a pretty creative bunch of humans.
It's exactly the beauty of it. Bitcoin gives some
Yes.
kind of optimism that things are possible, that you can like do innovate on top of it, and
Yes.
that's the great
Yes.
thing about it. And you just
Yeah.
said something about DeFi. Do you use stable coins?
Yes, actually, Pesabase itself, stablecoin, right? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes.
And which one is the largest in Kenya that's used?
USDT typically, I would say. Yeah,
Mhm.
so 'cause that's again, I would say if you look at coin market cap top 10, then more chances are those are the ones that are in use.
Okay. And can
Yeah,
you just talk a little bit about
Pesabase.
Pesabase? So your focus is on stable coins?
Right. So with what we have with the Celo dollar, that's the actual stable coin. So that's what allows people to be able to send and receive money across borders. Because with our focus on cross-border remittances, we've started with our primary corridor is Australia to East Africa, US to East Africa, and just that triangle, I would say,
Mhm.
US, Australia, and East Africa. So with that, it's that we're not, limited to that because, as again, the stablecoin is kind of borderless. Yeah. So in a way, that's just to say that by using this tech, then we've been able to leverage that capability of it.
Okay,
Yeah, so
interesting.
Pesabase just basically enables once you're able to set up your account and can sign in with Google, Apple is just about in development ready. And by signing in with your email and phone number, then you're able to send and receive money from friends and family very easily.
And
So actually within the app, then you don't see a lot about Bitcoin, blockchain, what, and all the technical terms. It's just a very simple wallet interface.
but do people
Yeah,
then pay it out, cash it out into local currency or into Bitcoin, or just send it
you can
back in?
you can cash out to local currency.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. I have to say I don't know very much about stable coins, so yeah. So it's
No problem, no problem. I think with another thing about I love about Bitcoin is that there's been, I came across a discussion on if let's say the best case scenario that the price of Bitcoin goes to above $100,000, then a lot of people would not be very drawn to that as a, transaction or remittance kind of platform, right? But they'll be more drawn to it as a store of value kind of, rather than a medium of exchange. So in that regard, then other maybe more stable coins then will become the preferred option to do remittances and cross-border payments. But you see, that's kind of a discussion for another day in a way. But
yeah.
the fact is that Bitcoin has given us that appetite. If we can do this, if we can handle our money, being in control, having that sovereignty, having that ability, no censorship, it's decentralized. It's for me, it's the beauty of the idea and the power of that idea that it's given us that is really amazing for me. Because maybe 10 years from now we may not have to call it Bitcoin, or of course it's still going to be called Bitcoin. But I think the discussion will be completely different in terms of, right now we're still Bitcoin what, Bitcoin how, Bitcoin Bitcoin government what, oh my gosh. It's almost in hushed tones, like yeah, I don't want to say Bitcoin too loud in case someone hears that and thinks that I'm a terrorist, or
Yeah,
thinks that I'm
yeah.
doing something illegal. Because I mean, in some countries, it's sad that the governments have completely either banned or are discouraging the use of Bitcoin. But 10 years from now, the discussion will be a lot more friendly. So the fact is that it's given us the appetite, first of all, to um, explore these ideas. And in being able to explore these ideas, then we'll be able to create the value that we need. So I think for me, that's the really hugest win for me about Bitcoin right now, that it's gotten us talking this way. And we know that there's something different out there for us. Even if Bitcoin won't be the main, which can be disputed, then the fact is that it's given us that appetite to reach out for this in the best way possible.
Mm.
Yeah.
My guess is it will be the backbone of everything in a way. So the base settlement layer. Yeah. But we will see. We don't know
Yeah,
the
we
future,
will.
but it's a
Yeah.
great thing to start. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. That was a
Yeah.
great conversation. I've learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where can people find and follow your work? Are you on
I
Twitter?
am. Yes, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Telegram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I am. I'm
Everywhere.
pretty much on. Yes, I'm on all these platforms. Roselyne Wanjiru. My handle is at wroselyne. So let's keep the conversation going. It's really been a delight to have it with you.
Thank you very much. I will put your social media links into the show notes to this episode. Thanks and have a good day.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful one too.
That was it. I hope you liked it and maybe you've learned a little bit. I did. Thanks to my sponsors who make it possible for me to produce the show. Localbitcoins.com, Shift Crypto with the Bitbox 02 and Coinfinity with the card wallet. Be sure to hit the subscribe button now to subscribe to my YouTube channel and always keep up to date with my latest videos. If you like my work, please share on social media and write a recommendation on Apple Podcasts. You can do that even if you don't have an iPhone, and it helps to spread the word about Bitcoin and my show. Thank you. If you are interested in the latest developments in the Bitcoin ecosystem from my point of view, subscribe to my weekly newsletter at anita.link/subscribe. See you next week when it's time for Bitcoin and Co. Music start with Yes, Delicate Beats. Editor Claire Saunders. Content and production, yours truly, Anita Posch.